Coming to you live from the Business RadioX studio, it's Franchise Marketing Radio. Elevate your franchise with Franchise Now. We tell your brand story on our radio podcast and boost it with powerful content marketing strategies. From blogs and videos to infographics and more, we enhance your brand's SEO and online visibility. Let Franchise Now help your franchise stand out in a crowded market. Visit us today and learn more to start your journey for greater visibility and success. And now, here's your host.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Franchise Marketing Radio. I'm Rob Figley, your host. It's great to have you here today. Joining me today, I have an exceptional guest. I say that about everybody, just to let everybody no, but he really is, and it's a timely conversation. I'm so glad to have him on the show today. Stefan Figley, he is the president of 1-800 Packouts. He's got a really diverse background in strategic marketing and leadership roles across many industries. And today we're going to talk a little bit about one of the most really compassionate franchise business models. And also within that model, these guys are one of those brands. And I want to talk to them a lot more about 1-800 Packouts today and dive into how they navigate things like has been going on in Florida. And, you know, when we see that happen to our country, how does it affect this brand and how do they step up? But it's great to have you on the show today, Stefan. Welcome.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Glad to be here, especially in some of these more situations that are happening right now. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I know. And it's, like I said, there are players in the midst of these situations, and I'm in Colorado and, you know, I don't experience hurricanes. We had some fires, but I'll tell you, like when that stuff happens, there are heroes in the midst and there are peoples that are in there helping one another in the communities. And this is an example of that. And I've always been a big proponent of the idea of franchising and what, you know, local business and working with the community. So it's always like that. But in these moments, it's really amplified and it's good to understand who the players are. So this is an example of that. Tell us a little bit before we get into some of the current events. Why don't we kind of back up? Tell us a little bit about you, your background, and how you landed or developed into where you are now as president of 1-800 Packouts.
Sure. Really appreciate it. So I have a long background in marketing and strategic marketing. I started on the agency side. So working with Leo Burnett, one of the largest agencies in the US. I did strategic marketing. I wasn't the creative. I did the analytics. What actually works? What's the ROI on that?
There you go.
So I did that all over the US for them and even internationally, ran 23 markets with them. And then eventually started moving over and got an offer to move over to the brand side with ServiceMaster companies. Worked for a couple of their brands, ran marketing for some. That's when I started getting into franchising and started working on one of their franchise brands as their CMO, and then moved over a little bit into operations, and then continued to expand. Worked with Jana King International as their chief operating officer. Large franchise, commercial cleaning. And then I've been with several others over the last 20 years in franchising specifically. So I've dabbled in entrepreneurship myself. My wife and I own our own company, not franchised. Rob and I talked about this a little bit earlier and the dynamics of that. But so I have a personal experience when I talk to candidates and existing owners regarding their business overall. It's not just what we do, but also what we're trying to do. We're trying to help folks start their own business. The folks that are entrepreneurs and really trying to grow it. So it's exciting. It's fun. I went out of the franchising for a little bit and came back, and it's enjoyable to work with folks to help them meet their goals. And that's what it is, and that's what I've been doing. So I've been with 1-800 Packouts for the last almost 2 years working back with them. So
well, fantastic. Well, okay. So I want to get right to the heart of, I think that it's just a great sort of case study, right, of the brand and why you do what you do and probably why many franchisees decide to do it. I mean, we're in business always to run a great business and be profitable. And if you do that well, we know we can then do our job better. So that's always a goal of a franchise brand. But you guys are also in a situation, so I'm just going to get right into it, where natural disasters can happen in different places. And obviously it heightens the demand for what you guys do. And you also have to really kind of put aside a lot of what would be normal procedures and start to this put on whatever it takes kind of mentality. And I also know that no matter what, though, we talked about it, like a disaster is a disaster to anyone, right? Because so there's always the balance of this empathy that you have to have and this leadership that you have to, confidence and leadership that calms people down and it helps them see that you're going to get them through it. So, but I know in a natural disaster, it's even heightened. So maybe share a little bit about what's been going on the last couple of hurricanes we've had in Florida and other places. Tell us a little bit of how that affects you guys, how you mobilize, how you partner. How does that happen? Share that with us.
Sure. I mean, first and foremost, in that situation, we hope that everybody's safe. I mean, that's the first priority over any of the belongings, if you would. I mean, a house is important, but it is a belonging, and so that's number one. And then for us, it's not just about our franchisees. We make sure our franchisees are safe. And then we're also part of 5-Star Franchising. And so we've reached out to all of our franchise partners and our sister companies and said, hey, if you have any owners that have been impacted or families and friends of owners or of people in our organization, please let us know. We can help if you need any assistance to navigate this situation, as it's not an everyday situation. You don't know. Yes, you have insurance. Yes, you have this. What's the process with it? How do you take advantage of it? How do you get yourself back up to running and normal? And so we've been able to jump in with some of our franchise owners and other of our sister brands and help them. We then jump into the community and try to help out in the community. We have our owners have volunteered around with distributing food and water as necessary. But the thing is, for us, our business starts to pick up. So our franchise owners are immediately put into how are we navigating the actual damages that are there, getting folks to get back towards normal. And so they immediately start doing that. And from corporate, we actually help from dealing with estimates. So because there could be a high volume of everything getting estimated to get done, we don't want that to slow a homeowner up in the process. And so at corporate, we have brand coaches that are experts in estimating and making sure everything gets done through the insurance company. So our owners don't have to spend a lot of time doing it. They can actually send it into us at corporate. We can execute for them. So it speeds up the process for that homeowner that's been affected by it. There are situations where we do have mobilization. We have owners that have volunteered teams to come into the markets to expedite any services that need to happen. We have the ability to move large 18-wheel trailers with extra supplies. When we do that, we have supplies for our franchise owners to go help folks, but at the same time, we bring in extra food and water and materials that are necessary for the community. So it's not just let's go in and do business. We're there to help these folks because this isn't something that happens every day. And so it's how do we manage that and how do we do it? So that's the actions we start taking.
And I just when you said water, yeah, just like, I mean, when you're in that, just the basics of life. I mean, you just don't have any of it. And it's just having that active compassion and like whether you're in a business doing it in a very purposeful, intentful way, or you're just a person trying to dive in and help. I think we're all wired that way ultimately. And it feels good to be able to be in that position. I recently, I was climbing a mountain and someone was lost and his whole team was trying to find him and they needed water. I remember we just said it was like at night, it was already nighttime. And we just offered them all water because I had been there for a very long time trying to figure this out and waiting for the search and rescue team to come. And it was just that act of kindness, right? And you said, there's something basic like water. And they were so thankful. I'm like, of course you can have the water. Take the water. Take all the water. I'll go get you more water. And,
yeah, we take a lot of things like that for granted. And it's, and it's one of the things we look at when we look at candidates that are applying and want to be a part of, and they're looking for their business. You have to have, and you said it in your opening about compassion, and you have to have that compassion and that empathy to really be and elevate in the industry that we're in. And so we take that as part of our evaluation and make sure that that's there because, you've got adults, but then you have to remember in a lot of these, you have children that have no idea what's going on. I mean, their world has been turned upside down. And so basic things there that we want to make sure are developed and delivered. And so those are some elements that we put into ours for our franchise owners and how they deliver that service for folks. So it is extremely important.
Yeah, to say the least. Well, and again, I'll say it, I'm glad you're there. I'm glad companies like you guys are there. But so looking at this type of scenario, obviously your business model is built around understanding the typical disaster, if you will, but not maybe a catastrophic or a hurricane. That might have variables you can't predict. But
Yeah.
how do you prepare? Because obviously we've been having natural disasters, and we've maybe had an uptick of them even as of say the last 30 years, 50 years. So what do you guys do in training to kind of do address it? And is there anything that you guys do in the aftermath? I gotta believe franchisees also, like, even if they're not affected, they're affected. So is there any thought that goes into all that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so for the pre side of it, it's the training, it's making sure that we have everything there to support folks, because even executing the business is difficult in that type of an extreme situation. They can't get everywhere where they want to go sometimes. They don't have internet. They don't have certain basic things that we are taking for granted, like we've said already. And so we work with them, say, this is how you'll handle these situations when there's mass volume like this. The other thing is we at corporate can take some of that burden off of their plate, which usually would be in their business. But we can do it because we have that expertise. We don't want to do the business for them. That's not the purpose. That's not how we're structured. But at that same time, we're here to help the entire communities that are going through all of this. In getting anything bogged down in red tape and bureaucracy, it's going to happen, but let's not be the people that are the ones keeping that there. So we train on that. We make sure they're efficient, that they have all the materials they need, so it's not slowing anything down. The one thing we're trying to improve on is continuing to work on the empathetic element because of this damage. And it's a different type of training than just here's how you pack a box and how you estimate something. We have to get into, you got to make sure you're taking it in. They're going to be panicked. Help them work with their insurance company to understand what is going to happen, how it's going to flow. It makes a little bit more of a comfort. Following is another one that's really interesting as we go through it. It's how do we give our owners that have been really going at it, and basically their workload went from what was normally a probably 80 to 100% of workload, and all of a sudden it's probably going at 250% because they're just trying to get it done. They don't want to not be able to help somebody. So how do we help them? And so that's a difficult situation. So we continue that support element for them as they get out of it, as it rolls to a slower, back to normal pace, if you would, and getting them more materials that they need to keep their business running, following it. And then there's the mentality of everything and trying to help them in any way possible that we can say, hey, take a break, go take a couple of days to get yourself out of this mode. So those are just encouragements and recommendations that we push forward to those owners, and make sure they get their teams taking shifts and breaks as the work starts to slow back to normal. It's extremely important for the mentality and the psychology of everything, as they've seen damage and everything that they're going through, and in especially extreme cases like a hurricane or a tornado, or fires, for example. All of that it's a heightened element of mentality that you take care of it, but what happens afterwards, you need to regroup a little bit. And so we try to encourage that and help guide them on how to do that with their team.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah, I guess you have to take it. Just paying attention, just being aware of how people are, and both there in their moment with the customer, being aware of the customer, and then you guys being aware of your franchisees, maybe a month later, see how they're
Yes.
doing. Yeah, it's just, you got to take it. No one has a playbook 100% for these things, but you guys are closest to it if there were one. Um, so in terms of marketing, because I know you're a marketing guy and you understand how important communicating the brand is. So how do you weave in, and Five Star might be part of this too. How do you like weave in this idea that you guys are what you're describing right now? You're this empathetic company that gets it and wants to get it because they get the importance of getting it. And so, like, how do you communicate that to people that, oh, you're not just a restoration company or something like that?
No, that's a great point. We actually had multiple conversations on this over the last couple of weeks. And the way that is it just brings it to the top of everything right now. It's front of mind and everything. But I mean, our franchise owners across the country are talking about that empathetic element. That's important to them. That's what they do. This heightens that. And even in areas that aren't impacted directly by these storms, we want to make sure we're talking to our network of partners, whether they're mitigation partners, whether they're insurance carriers, adjusters, and all of our networks that we deal and do business with about this is who we are. And it's not even just the restoration element. We have one of our owners has put his business in charge by his general manager and left for now. He's been in the field for almost 3 weeks he's a lineman. And that's what he was before he was a franchise owner at 1-800-Packouts. And we're super proud of him because he has been in the Carolinas and then getting their power back on. And then he went straight into Florida after Hurricane Milton came on and is doing even more work. So he's been gone and out for approaching a month. And so for us, we're trying to support him. He's not located anywhere near this geography. He is 1,500 miles away, and his business continues to operate, and we're helping him from a corporate perspective. But he gave up some time in that personal element to go and help folks and do that because he has that other expertise, and they need that. And so that's just one of those things that, that's a sign that it isn't just where the storm was, it's who we are. And we're super proud of that as a brand. Five Star is as well. And it's great stories like that we want other folks that work with us and network with us to understand that's who we are. That is our brand. And we'll stick with that as much as we can. It helps bring it to the forefront now so we can talk more about it. In the last 2 years, we haven't had any major storms like that. So it's kind of you're looking for the way to tell everybody and remind them that this is out there, and you have to wait for something like this to get something newer. And it's like, it is, but we first and foremost, these folks have been put into some jeopardy. We need to make sure everybody's happy and getting safe, and then we can market with that as well. But our priority still is the people on the ground. Now, of course, we'll take our brand and do what we need to, but and that is who we are. That is our personality. And that's where we want to continue our personality.
Yeah. Well, that's why we're talking right now, to tell stories about things. And it's just important, I think, if I were considering working with you guys, or not necessarily a disaster scenario, because it may just be you showed up somehow, right? I don't know. But if I were investing in the franchise, these are the real deal situations about it, right? That you love to talk about and that matter. And the linemen, I love that. I think linemen, like almost like Marines, there's some badass dudes. Like you need to be a certain dude and have that background, but it's also some dangerous work. And power is the first thing we need, right?
Yeah, and he didn't have to. He had retired from that line of work, and but he wasn't going to stop doing it. And that shows that's why he was a great candidate for us as an owner. And he's one of our newer owners. He's been in business for a year, a little over a year. And but that's the type of folks that make up our network. And it's not just our brand or Five Star. I mean, I know there's plenty of others. We're just, like you said, we're just spun right into this. This fits right in our wheel. This is the business we do. And so we need to make sure folks are really attuned to that, because you're taking people's personal possessions. You're cleaning it. You're making sure you're taking care of it. You're storing it in a climate controlled, private, secure location, not general storage or anything. So we are taking care of people's their life, their belongings. What some of these folks have is major possessions, and so that is important to us. And so it's really nice to see that, and it's a great little story that kind of tags into everything.
Yeah, very cool story. Well, and like you said, with the material, the personal belongings. I mean, it's just a very emotional thing. I mean, you guys got to be really tuned in those moments because people are just running through all these emotions, and they could be looking at something, and it's destroyed or halfway destroyed, and it just crushes them or something. And you can feel that and see that. I can just imagine being in that moment with some of your franchisees. So yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate what you guys do in those moments. So very
Thanks.
cool. And
Yeah,
yes,
we
I think
appreciate
there
it.
was a movie about linemen. I thought there was. Am I wrong? I think John
I
Travolta was in that movie. I don't
There,
know.
there
Maybe
might
I'm
be.
wrong.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So, I mean, I mean, we were super, when he told us he's going to do that, we're like, okay, we'll do anything we can help your business to make sure
Yeah.
it's continuing. And it's just one of those things. And it's really stepped up, not just from 1-800 Packouts and all sorts of brands, but five-star franchising stepped up and has put in things to help folks that have been, have a problem with this, have lost things and have their life turned upside down. There's a lot of other brands that are involved in it. We also work with Mercy Chefs that come in and bring trailers, kitchen trailers, and get food into disaster areas for such things. That's just something we're connected with. And there's many other brands in our industry. It's not just us, but you have to be. It's not just what you do. You got to remember that this doesn't happen on a regular occurrence for each of these individuals, and they don't know what's going on, and then they're confused, and they need. Hopefully, everybody understands it. Take that time, see it, take advantage of it, because people are out there putting their hands out to help. So it's nice
Yeah.
to see in that situation. So.
Yeah, I think we all benefit, all of us. So technology wise, interesting situation with all this. Um, how does that play a role? How do you communicate? You may be experiencing power losses and outages. How do you sort of plan for the scenarios like that? And how does technology play a role?
Yeah, so actually, technology plays a huge role in examples of how I said we support our businesses that are in the middle of all of this, and when all this volume starts to come up to try and help folks. The harder part is if you don't have electricity or you don't have internet connection of any sort, it becomes difficult. But we utilize tools that help us pass those claims along. And so in ours, we have all our franchisees are tied in with certain systems to do the inventory, to do the estimate that allows other folks that are not right in the heart of it to actually offer support. So we can, once everything's loaded, we can see the inventory. So there's hundreds of photos from one site with the descriptions that are put into it. All you need is one internet connection to get that uploaded. So sometimes it might not be Wi-Fi. They literally get their cell phone service back up, and they go to a hotspot to their phone, get it loaded, and ask for help from corporate to, hey, can you get this estimate turned around so the insurance carrier can start processing it so that homeowner can get things starting to get taken care of. It's just a process, right? And none of us really like all this red tape and bureaucracy of the process, but it's there and we have to go through it. And so part of what our owners do and what we do from a corporate perspective is helping people understand what it is, right? You don't want to use your insurance that you have, but you have to, because, and then what are all those hoops that you have to jump through? So we do that. We make sure our owners can handle more. So when they hit their capacity, it can come over to corporate. We can deal with it. All of that comes through technology. So we utilize Encircle from our inventory perspective. So it gets loaded into there. Now you have hundreds of photos. You have the description of everything. That can get passed to somebody that has experience with the estimating elements for the insurance carrier, and we can do that remotely. We've had other owners that are on the West Coast that said, hey, if they need help completing an estimate to get it back out there very quickly for the insurance carrier, let us know. Our estimator will jump on and pull one, and we'll send it to them and they can do it. So it's not just corporate, it's our entire network have raised their hands. We have folks that are owners that are also adjusters. And we've had two of them have jumped in and went down to Hurricane Milton to help the whole industry. And so they're doing, because it's just about getting through the process. And so they've left their business to go down and help with that. They're not going to get any pack out work from it. They're located again 1,800 miles, 2,000 miles away, literally almost the other side of the country. So it's one of those things that technology we wouldn't be able to do as much. So folks on the ground that are in these dramatic areas, these trauma areas, would not get certain things back into place as fast without technology. And it's not just, I mean, all of them, our mitigation partners, all of them utilize this. So what it does is it provides seamless integration from somebody that's going to get the water out of it, get the flood cut done. Let's get all the belongings out. Do they need to be cleaned? It's all in one system. So we're all talking to each other, even though we're not exactly the same company. Because we use technologies, we're integrated with each other, which helps us provide that type of service to the homeowner. You want to know where your stuff is, you want to know the timing, you can see all of this because of technology. So it's extremely important and allows for increased timing and additional support from anyone and everyone outside of just that market. So it's extremely important for us.
I'm gonna ask you a question. This is a follow up to the technology idea.
Yeah.
And we could, it may, depending on what you tune into. I know I tune into a lot of tech. So we're in a world today with AI where robotics is taking off. So whether you've been paying attention or tuning in, I'll just frame it for you. What would your thought be on how robotics could help in these scenarios? Do you think there's a huge role for robots to help in these scenarios? I'm just saying it seems to me
that's
like
a good question.
They can be in factories, right? And I'm just wondering, what does that look like? But it certainly wouldn't, I don't think anyone would care as long as it helped, right?
Yeah, I don't think anybody would care as long as it could help. It's just trying to figure out could it? Yeah, I'm sure there's elements that could be there. But I don't, at a certain point, maybe you're going to start seeing an entire house is already scanned and in some system. I mean, we've seen that in this industry already. And then AI can be able to go in with, once the damage has happened, rescan it to see what the difference is. And the AI would probably put it together to see the difference between what was when it was correct or when it was normal to what it is now with the damages. And then maybe even prepare an element for third-party adjusters or an adjuster or a carrier to say, we think this damage is to this degree. Now, the hard part is, you would have to start putting in all sorts of elements like thermal and water detection, because it's the moisture that's you look at Florida, you look at the Carolinas with the heat and the temperatures. If the water stays for a long time or the walls are wet, now you're having a health issue potentially with mold. That's what comes next. And so that's why it has to be treated and done properly. Can it be done? I'm not somebody that'll say it couldn't be done. Off the top of my head, since you put me on the spot like that would be the first thing I think could actually, that's somewhere I've seen people dabble in it. It's when the insurance carrier would trust that is the right information. You're still going to have what is the actual and reality when you're there. And again, it's going to go back to imagery, right? Is it live images instead of just still photos? Are we having a full ability to have a camera in the side 24/7 so they know what's going on all the time? I mean, if you don't have a budget to it, there's all sorts of things that potentially could happen, right? I think the first and foremost might be saving or getting people versus humans. Can robots or somebody get to people and get them out and to get to safety?
Yes,
I think that medical issues, a lot of folks don't leave if they can't due to health or medical. How does that flow? So I think you're not just looking at mitigation and repair, you're looking at preparedness of all sorts of elements in there. Yeah, that's bigger than a rabbit hole.
It is. It is.
Have
And
is the
I,
discussion.
I love your answer that you gave. Anyone listening that's in the business should be paying attention. I think what you just described is maybe being worked on now as far as the comparing and contrasting and quickly, making an assessment that's very accurate. And, the speed would be there for sure, just in what we know now. But it is a developing thing. I just know the robots are at a point where they can do some finesse type work. It's not in a place where it's in an economic, I mean, maybe in a couple of years where you start
Yeah.
things being rolled out in different ways. I think things like people like Amazon and they do have some things in place and in different, in their factories, what have you. But yeah, but it is, it's like it's upon us and we're not really talking about it much. And I just wanted to, yeah, eventually we'll all be talking about it in a few more
Yeah.
years, but
It keeps
it's,
coming up. It's
yeah,
definitely a hot topic. And we at Five Star, we're always pushed about how do you use technology, how do you use AI in the businesses. And at first I was like, I don't know, and I'm trying to figure it out. And we've used
yeah,
more and more for franchise support, from an economic perspective, content, increasing the amount of potential content that's out there that our owners can tap into, so they're not feeling like they're out and on an island to try and figure things out. I still believe right now that we have a good ratio of operational support, operational coaches to the number of franchisees we have. I think that's extremely important in the industry we're in. And so that's
yeah.
something that I budget and take into financial concern and strategy. But then the other element is, what can I take off of their plate and add in from an AI perspective that can move it faster? Maybe we're in a better position then. It's not to take away a job, it's to provide an additional support mechanism and level of support for an entrepreneur that's trying to figure out how to continue to grow their business. So there's
Totally.
always positives to things.
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, I believe, when I get into that conversation about AI, I really believe it's best for humanity. It's just going to be it's a transition, just like we went from horse and buggy to car and other types of big changes. It is going to be a transition, and we're lucky enough to live through it. And but I think it's about lifting humanity and making us better and giving us time for things that we didn't have time for before, or and investing in things we didn't think about investing in because we didn't have the time for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you had a horse and buggy, it would take you a certain amount of time to go visit mom and dad. Maybe right now you could,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? You could have to plan a week versus an hour. So yeah, life will change, but we're me and you are living through it, right? And
That's right.
so for Five Star, I wanted to give a quick shout out. Tell me the brands because I know you probably worked with some of your sister brands. Tell me the brands within the group, and I'm sure some of them were involved in this too.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have Mosquito Shield is one, Five Star Bath Solutions, Bio One you mentioned as well, and then Got You Covered and Card My Yard. So we are all in the home services arena, dealing with folks and property, if you would. And so it's been really good. Super good group of folks to work with, bounce ideas off of how to run and manage the right type of franchise system as a franchisor, offering that support, trying to bring more insight and the right deliverable to folks that are investing their hard-earned money in our businesses to try and continue their own growth. So it's
Have
been
you
really
worked
strong.
closely? Yeah, did you work closely with Bio One then in some of
We
this,
we
or
continue to work with Bio One so that'll continue, right? There'll be if if the water hangs a little bit longer, you're moving into the biohazard element. So what type of
gotcha?
catastrophe water is it? So all of that does take a role as you move forward. They deal with a lot of biohazard water or situation, so they deal with getting it cleaned up. But at the same time, you have to remove content, and that's us. So if we work together, we can get that content removed. We can get it cleaned properly. All our franchisees are mandatorily have ultrasonic, which allows them to clean at a high level, and really get what insurance carriers want and are expecting for homeowners, and it's what homeowners expect. So we do work with them. It's a great synergy for us on that, and so there's more and more that can come forward from it as we move forward with our partnerships and our sister brand. But we do a lot together. Yes.
Right. Yeah. As the journey of restoration continues, right? As you build everything, restore everything back.
That's
Um,
right.
so if you were given some advice, I really appreciate you sharing all this because I know you probably have to talk about it a lot, and thank you. Um, but if you did have to give some advice to someone who's maybe on the fence about this, looking at a business like this in the restoration world, or even something like that's related, where you're in these natural disasters and you're responding. What would your advice be, and maybe encouragement, maybe some real talk? But yeah, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is to know that it's there. From a business perspective, the caution I would give: never plan for disasters. Your pro forma should be built on a standard operating business, which is there. Our industry is strong in that situation, but I wouldn't be budgeting, oh, I'm going to expect a storm if you live in storm areas or if you live in areas that have fires. Don't expect that. Let that be there and have your team ready for the capacity that would happen and how your franchisor can offer you support in that while to help everybody and help your own team. The encouragement of it is fulfilling. You help people. You're part of a network. You feel a little bit down on something in these types of deals because you're buried in the middle of it. I've spoke to an owner that is based in Florida. I spoke to him 2 times this week already. And he's just like, man, I haven't been this busy, and I sleep for 6 hours max, and the rest is I'm on my feet and I'm in the, hey, I got you. What else do you need? Can I help you? Sometimes it's just words of encouragement and laughter, and it's there. But being part of that network, that's the brothers and sisters that understand the business and are there to help. And if you raised your hand and said, I've got 40 jobs, I don't know how I'm going to get it done, I'm going to have to pass on them, I feel bad for these folks, I can promise you in my business, in the network of 1-800 Packouts, if we brought that to our network, we would have more than one owner raise their hand that they will get 2 or 3 people over there to help that owner. Even the owner might go and say, you take a day off, you just need to go rest. I'm going to come in for a couple days and I'll help you. That's who we are. And that's what you want to look for. If you're dealing with anything that has these just out of the ordinary type catastrophes, they are mentally draining. Even at corporate where we aren't in it. I'm not in the middle of it. I'm right now in Texas. I'm not in the middle of it, but it is mentally draining. I want to be there. My team wants to be there to help anybody that's got any questions on it. And so you have to prepare yourself for that. It's a little bit more extreme than your normal day. And it's rewarding when you've done it, when you help people and everything, but you also have to take care of yourself. So the encouragement is being in a franchise group that deals with this, you're going to have so much support. And that's why franchising is so beneficial as you launch a business, as you get into your own entrepreneurship, et cetera. They have that support. They have those guides. You're not figuring everything out, and they'll be there when you're trying to figure new things out. And so that's what I think is the most important. And that's why I enjoy being part of franchising. I've done it for 2 decades, and it's exciting because people are venturing into the new area. And if they're going to put the effort into it, we're going to try to put the effort into it. So it's a great partnership is what I look for.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, well, like I said, being an entrepreneur, you want to build a business, you want to be successful and do all the things that you would expect a good business is, right? But having that extra level to be a hero from time to time, and you kind of are a hero almost. Like I said, everybody has a disaster, whether I'm not talking natural disaster, just their own local
Yeah.
disaster. So it is sort of you're the hero. You get to play that role, but there's some pressure with that too. So that has to be in your DNA, I think. And like you said, there's certain professions you can look at, like a lineman. that might be a good fit, right? Like that's just the
Yeah,
sort of DNA you might look for, but it doesn't mean you have to be alignment for anyone who's not. I'm sure there's a
no,
lot of it.
exactly.
But,
But
but
remember,
anyway,
once it's done, pat yourself on the back. Take some time to acknowledge what you've just accomplished, because otherwise you just bury yourself right back into other work. You need to take the victories and celebrate all the victories, little ones included, to keep that encouragement. That's just overall psychology. That doesn't have anything to do with one brand to another. It's just, as a business person, being an entrepreneur can be tough, and you gotta make sure you celebrate wins with yourself and with your team, so that they continue that encouragement to be able to go offer that to other people. I think that's extremely important.
that's great advice. Well, listen, I love talking about this. We could probably go on and on, and but I really I'm glad you captured the moment a little bit while it was still pretty close. And I appreciate you sharing. I think it really gives a lot of perspective. Before I let you go, do you want to share a good way for folks to reach out to you guys, learn more, and we'll take it from there.
Absolutely. Again, pretty easy. 1-800-Packouts. That is the phone number as well. 1-800-Packouts.com. You can connect with us there. Anything you need, we're on LinkedIn. We have Instagram, and we respond to anything that you have. If you need help with something, you're interested in a business, or you need help with just what's going on in your day-to-day life, something that popped up and you have a question, we'll be happy to help with any of that. So everything's there. We're everywhere, just like I guess, as you say, in technology, everybody is today. But we do have folks watching those and making sure we get back to folks on any of those
Good deal.
contacts.
Thank you. Well, your insights and perspective on all this is super, super cool to hear and understand. And I can feel it. I feel your passion, and you should be proud of your brand and being in the franchise world. So thank you again for being here. Appreciate your time, Stefan. And I know we'll talk again.
Well, I appreciate it, Rob. Thanks a lot for having me.